gonna start with what's been happening in Hull. In my last video, or my series of last videos, I brought you up to speed with my journey to investing in Hull and how I completed just before the end of last year, back end of November. Now, what's been going on since November in terms of getting a tenant in there and all the stuff that's come along the way with regard to getting the house ready to be lettable and habitable by the incoming tenants? I'm glad you asked. Let me take you on that journey. So, as I mentioned, I completed at the back end of November, and my tenants moved in at the back end of January. So basically from completion, which is essentially me getting the keys and the buying process being over, through to getting a tenant in the door, signing the tenancy agreement, and being there for the next 12 months. 2 months, guys. So I think that's really good work. So how did I get from completion to a tenant being in the house in 2 months? In what I think is a really good short space of time. It's taken longer with other properties. Not much longer, but it has taken longer. Let me take you through the steps. So first things first, guys. Before I was at completion in November, from like September, October, I was researching letting agents in the area. Now, why was I doing that? To not waste any time. Exactly to achieve what I did achieve, getting a tenant into the house as soon as possible after completion. Now, that was just a standard Google search, and I've been through in other videos on how I conduct searches for letting agents. But basically, guys, in this day and age, use the internet to your advantage. When you're searching and when you're Googling for letting agents for your buy-to-let house, go by reviews. Google is really good at showing you reviews from other customers that have used a particular service or product. In this case, it's a letting agent. So I like my letting agent, guys, to be literally around the corner from my property. So as you know, this property is in Hull. I don't even want a letting agent in Hull that's like far away. So, 4 or 5 miles away. I want it within a mile of the property. Why? Because they're more likely to do more, to be more attentive to a property that's close to their office. People are human beings, guys. So I was looking around. I called around about at least 5 agents, and I asked them to send me a breakdown of all of their fees and their rates for letting services. Put them into a spreadsheet and compared and contrasted, and went with the one that was offering best value for money, but also the best service. And in terms of service, I'm measuring that by the rating. So they weren't necessarily the cheapest, but when you combine their rating and their fees and their costs, this was the one that I came out with, and I've been very happy with them so far, guys. I mean, they've been so attentive. Even before I completed, they were getting in touch, giving me breakdowns of, what they could get in that particular street and that area of Hull. And then once I completed, they were in there like a shot, and they did really well to bring me back some tenants. And we're going to give you a breakdown of the options that they gave me after they'd interviewed a bunch of tenants. And I want to ask you, after I show you on screen, what tenant would you have gone for? But before that, let me talk about some costs. So it's inevitable, guys, and I really want to highlight this now. When you buy a buy-to-let property, and yep, you can do your survey, you can do your valuation, there's always going to be something in the house that needs to be fixed, basically, in order to have the property habitable and to a standard that a tenant would enjoy, to a standard that you would enjoy if you was living in the house. So let me run through what was discovered by my agent after I completed and handed over the keys. By the way, guys, I want to tell you just quickly, I went to this property once, okay? So I went and viewed it, and on that day I viewed lots of other properties. If you want to see the video on all of the properties that I, viewed on the day, check out this video here. But I've only seen it once, okay? I then got a survey done, and I haven't been back since. And that's the same for several of my other properties, just to give you an idea of how often I'm up and down there, okay? I really do place a reliance on my letting agents. So it's important to choose one you trust. Back to the cost. So they went into the property and they found an issue with the boiler. So basically the boiler was dripping. And when they did a bit more digging, they found out that there was a leak in the roof that needed fixing because the water was coming through the roof, down through the pipes, through the boiler and dripping into the house. So that needed to be repaired. That was £144. When you let out a property, you have to have a gas safety certificate, a valid one, and also electrical, it's an EICR. So it's basically a report on the condition of the electrics throughout the house. I'm sorry, don't know what it stands for. If you know, put it in the comments below. So gas safety certificate, £90. The electricity condition report was £200. Off the back of that report, there was some remedial work, stuff that needed to be fixed, updated, fuse boards that needed to be replaced. That was £204. Smoke alarms needed to be put in the house, £126. And in the interim, from completion through to getting a tenant in there, I had to pay council tax. You have to pay council tax even if the property is empty, which of course is, in my opinion, not fair, but that was £327. So altogether, guys, £1,091 to pay in order to get the property up to a standard that was lettable. So just bear in mind, when you're buying a buy-to-let house and you're looking to put it on the housing market, there inevitably are going to be costs that get found in between completing and putting a tenant in there that need to be met. I personally would budget between like £500 and £1,000 for that, because it's been similar with my other properties over the years. So let's have a bit of a discussion about the tenants. So my agent, I think they must have interviewed at least 10 people. I mean, they went in on the marketing of this property and they did really well. One thing I liked about what they did is that they scheduled a lot of the viewings on the same day. I think the bulk of that 10 were on the same day. So you'd have a bunch of people all looking on the same day at the same time. And it obviously drives up competition amongst the tenants, because they get the impression that, hey, look, there's a lot of competition for this. It's obviously a good flat in a good area because so many people want it. So really good stuff from the agent. Applicant 1, okay, they were looking for a 12-month tenancy. They wanted to move in ASAP. It was 2 adults and a child, no pets, non-smokers, they weren't on benefits, no adverse credit. They moved to the UK and been staying with family for the last 3 months, and both adults were working with recruitment companies and the wages were affordable for the property. That was the first tenant or tenants. Second, tenants. They were looking to start with 6 months, looking to move in January. 2 adults, 1 child, no pets, no smokers, no benefits, no adverse credit. Has been in the tenant. They were a tenant in another city for the last 5 months, employed as a registered nurse. So one of them was employed as a registered nurse, and the wages were affordable for the property. Which one are you going for, okay, in terms of those 2 tenants? Let me know in the comment section below. I want you to put on your landlord hats for a second and let me know who you would have gone with. And don't change your answer based on what I say next. I really want to know your true thoughts on that. So me personally, right, I have learned the benefit over the years of really screening your tenants well. I've had one tenant actually who turned out to be a right nightmare, and that was to do with their affordability and their time in and out of a job and falling behind with rental payments. And long story short, I had to end up going for the deposit because they just refused. They moved out and just didn't pay, and they left the house in a state as well. So bearing that in mind, and I think that should be at the forefront of every landlord's mind, you need to screen your tenants well. Yes, the agent's going to do a lot of the work for you, but also, you know, do some of the work yourself when it comes to, you know, looking at it properly and making your own mind up. So I personally went with, drumroll, applicant number 1. Why did I do that? First of all, they were looking for a tenancy of 12 months. So I don't want to be in a position where they've only been in for 6 months, and 6 months will fly by, guys. Then you have to start the whole marketing process again. And, you know, they might extend, but maybe they won't, okay? Maybe they'll move out. At least with 12 months, they're locked in for 12 months. So you have that certainty of income for 12 months. And, you know, whenever a tenant moves out, you have to pay a set of fees with that to remarket the property. On average, over the years, it's been around about £600, you know, when they're talking about like inventory costs and remarketing and renewal costs and fees. It adds up to, you know, basically a month's rent. And I'm not looking to do that, okay? So that was the first thing. They both were 2 adults with a child, which is good. Usually families tend to stay in a house for longer, especially when they have children. And what really sold them to me and what I really liked was that both adults were working. So it wasn't just one adult, as with the other tenant, they were both working. So you'd expect there to not be any, or less likely to be, affordability issues. If one falls out of work, the other one's going to foot the bill. And they moved across in the UK and staying with family for the last 3 months. So they seem pretty keen. If you've just come to the UK, you've been with your family for 3 months, you want to get out, you want to get somewhere that you can lay your roots down with, especially if you have a child. be comfortable in, and hopefully stay there for a long time. So that is the tenant that I went with. Let me know who you went for in the comments. Thank you for watching. This year I'm making a video every month to answer any questions that you have for me. So whether you want to know whether you should invest in a limited company or in your own name, whether you should buy a flat or a house, what is the best way to get started in property, or who my barber is, just let me know. You can ask me in the comment section below, on Instagram, on TikTok, and I'll make a video dedicated to your questions. Like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.